the original founding of the Drop-In Center since 1973. And just to think that this problem has not been solved because we've not been thinking rationally about the need for affordable housing.
Yep.
And I think all of us have done a wonderful job, though, when I think about how many shelters and groups that have been formed since way back then to serve people that are experiencing homelessness on the street. We've been doing our work, but our government, both national, state, and local, have not done their work. And I came tonight and I wore this 30-year-old t-shirt. The Greater Cincinnati Homeless Coalition was part of the National March on Washington, D.C., October 7th, 1989. We had just, George H.W. Bush was just in office, and the previous president, Ronald Reagan, had cut the HUD budget by $24 billion, slashed it in half. And we were there challenging George Bush to change the course of history. It was amazing. 40,000 to 100,000. The number will differ depending upon who wrote about it. But women, labor unions, civic groups were there trying to get the government to do more for affordable housing. We marched, we protested because there was a shortage 30 years ago. We still have a big shortage of affordable housing today. We are calling on our local politicians today to change their course. We need them to fund the trust fund. This is just one of many equitable development policies they could support and enact. We can't wait any longer. It was a national crisis in 1989. It is a national, state, and local crisis in 2019. And we need a humane, equitable development agenda. We need to keep the pressure on. Nothing comes from City Hall without pressure for them to do the right and the just thing. We must demand action. Peasley Neighborhood Center is here today standing in solidarity with all the groups. We know that our families struggle with paying the rent. We know that our families struggle with finding decent, safe, and affordable housing in Over the Rhine, West End, and in our entire city. It does not help to have an ordinance typed with fine ink and not have a way to put money in those coffers to help us do the housing. It is getting more difficult to live in Over the Rhine and seeing my neighbors being displaced, seeing big development projects every day, not having one unit of affordable housing. That's because we don't have policies in this city that make it be that they have to do some affordable housing. There must be housing now for our sisters and brothers living on the camps in this city. There must be housing now for the families sleeping in their car for they could no longer pay their rent. There must be housing now for the elderly on fixed income. There must be housing now for a mom searching for a place she can afford for her and her children without the fear of using up her meager budget. There must be housing now, plain and simple. I